Hello, welcome to today's video on soil exploration. The knowledge of subsoil condition at any site is a mandatory for safe and economical design of substructure. The field and the laboratory studies carried out for determining the necessary information regarding the subsoil characteristics is known as soil exploration. This video will give an idea regarding the objectives of soil investigation, stages of soil investigation program, guidelines for selecting the number of boreholes, depth of exploration, and the different methods of soil exploration. So let us begin with the objectives of soil investigation. First is to get the soil profile. That is, it will enable us to draw the vertical section of the strata. Then to determine the physical and the engineering properties of the soil along with the water table and the possible effects of soil and water on the foundation materials. Then to predict the difficulties that may occur in the future to achieve safe and economical design of foundation, to locate the sources of construction material and the selection of sites for dumping the waste material to ensure the safety of the surrounding structures. With these objectives, let us pass on to the next topic, that is how to plan a soil investigation program. So first thing is the cost. So cost of any investigation program should never exceed 1% of the total cost of the project, and it is normally kept in between 0.1 to 0.5%. If it is a built-up area, the cost will be reduced, and if it is a new area, due to the lack of knowledge regarding the soil, the cost may be increased. Further, if there is a large variation in the soil profile during the course of our investigation, then we may need to increase the number of boreholes, thereby increasing the cost of investigation. And for very important structures, even field tests could be conducted. So what are the stages in soil exploration? There are 3 stages: reconnaissance, preliminary investigation, detailed investigation. So reconnaissance, it starts with the office work. So sitting in the office, refer to the geological map of the area, agronomy maps, and getting hydrological informations. Then make a preliminary site visit. There you may collect the details from the already available pits and wells located nearby. Second is the preliminary investigation. In this stage, we may try to find out the thickness of the various stratums and identify the physical properties as well as the depth of the bedrock. Then in the third stage of investigation, we need to find precisely the shear strength characteristics, compressibility characteristics, and the permeability characteristics. Together we call it as the engineering properties, and also the conduction of the field test like SPT, SCPT, plate load test, etc. also become a part of this detailed investigation. Then next is what should be the depth of the exploration. So it is based on the pressure bulb concept. IS 1892-1979 gives the following guidelines. So the type of the foundation, if it is an isolated spread footing or raft, then it is 1.5 times the width of the footing. So adjacent footings with clear spacing less than the width. So here you can see if it is less than this width, twice the width, then it is 1.5 times the length of the footing. And if you have an adjacent row of footings in this manner, based upon the spacing between them, then we have these guidelines. So it is equal to 4.5 times the width, 3 times the width, and 1.5 times the width of the footing. And if we have a pile or well foundation, then the depth of exploration should be up to a depth of 1.5 times the width of the structure from the bearing level. And in the case of road cuts, it is equal to the bottom width of the cut. And if it is a fill, then we need to do the exploration up to a depth of 2 meters below ground level or equal to the height of the fill, whichever is greater. There is another method given by Sauer and Sauer. For light steel or narrow concrete buildings, the depth of exploration has to be carried out equal to 3 times S to the power 0.7, and for heavy steel or wide concrete buildings it is 6 times S to the power 0.7, where D is the depth in meters and S is the number of stories. So there is an important concept called significant depth or critical depth. So what is the meaning is, exploration in general, it should be carried out to a depth up to which the increase in pressure due to structural loading is likely to cause perceptible settlement or shear failure. Such a depth is known as significant depth or critical depth. So the meaning is, the depth of the borehole should be at a depth at which additional stress due to applied load equals 10% of the initial stress due to the self weight. So look at this graph. So this is nothing but the additional stress that may be due to any structure, and this is 10% of the initial stress. Initial stress is nothing but the overburden pressure. So you can see this additional stress just below the footing is maximum, and it goes on decreasing as the depth increases, and this is the 10% of the overburden stress, and the overburden stress is 0 at the top, and it goes on increasing as the depth increases. So what is the logic behind this definition? So you know the concept, S is equal to CCH by 1 plus E naught log of P naught plus delta P by P naught, where delta P is the additional stress, P naught is 10% of the initial stress, and these are the usual notations. CC is the compression index, H is the thickness of the compressible strata, E is the void ratio. So here when we substitute delta P equal to 0.1 P naught, then this becomes close to 0, so settlement is equal to 0. So up to that depth the investigation has to be carried out. Then let us pass on to the next one, that is the spacing of the borehole or the number of boreholes. So it depends upon the importance of the structure. Greater the importance of the structure, greater the number of boreholes. And what is the variation in the soil profile? So we have to make sure that the knowledge of the soil profile is complete about the site. Then finally the attitude of the geotechnical engineer who is in charge of the project. The number and the spacing of the boreholes, it will depend upon the extent of the site and the nature of the structures coming on it. So the guidelines provided by IS 1892-1979 regarding the spacing or the number of boreholes is as follows. So for a compact building site covering an area of 0.4 hectare, so 0.4 hectare is approximately about 0.99 acre, or let it be 1 acre, one borehole or the trial pit at each corner and one at the center, that is 5 boreholes for an area of about 1 acre. Then for smaller and less important buildings, even one borehole or one trial pit at the center will be sufficient. And if it is a very large area, means then it has to be divided into grids, and the cone penetration test or CPT may be performed at every 50 meter by dividing that area in a grid pattern, and the number of boreholes or the trial pits decided by examining the variation in the penetration curves. Based on this guidelines, we can see that up to 1000 square feet plinth area, one borehole has to be tested. Then 1000 to 5000 square feet 2, 5000 to 10,000 3, 10,000 to 25,000 square feet 4, and 25,000 to 1 acre 5. Greater than 1 acre, 2 locations for every acre, and if it is greater than 5 acres, 50 into 50 meter grid has to be formed, and boreholes has to be located at the center of each grid. So next is the methods of exploration. So now so far we have seen what should be the depth of exploration, what should be the number or spacing of boreholes. Now let us pass on to what are the methods of exploration. So there are three methods. One is the direct method, semi-direct method, and the indirect method. So direct method includes trial pit or the test pit. So trial pit or test pit is nothing but digging a pit approximately of size 1.2 meter by 1.2 meter, and this is applicable only for a shallow depth, say up to 3 meters. And you can, advantages of this is that you can inspect the site in their natural condition. You can see the stratums through eye, and that will boost our confidence, and you can collect massive disturbed samples, and massive undisturbed samples called block or chunk samples may also be collected, and the same pit can be used for conducting the field test also. So this is one of the trial pit at a site in Coimbatore, and here you can see the changes in the soil profile. So up to this depth you can see the black cotton soil or clay soil, and then below that you have this whitish portion which we call it as the conker, and then you have this SDR at the bottom. So this disadvantages of the trial pit method is that beyond 3 meters it is not possible to extend, because the caving in of the soil occurs, and the maximum depth up to which trial pit requires no support theoretically is 4C divided by gamma into Ka, where C is the cohesion, gamma is the unit weight of the soil, Ka is the coefficient of earth pressure. And if there is groundwater table, then it has to be lowered before conducting the test in the trial pit. The next method is the semi-direct methods. So it is the boring method. So it is making or drilling boreholes into the ground with the view to obtain soil or rock samples from specified or known depths is called as boring. There are different types of boring which we will see in a separate video. So auger boring, wash boring, percussion drilling, rotary drilling, core drilling, shot drilling. The last method is the indirect method, the standard penetration test, static cone penetration test, dynamic cone penetration test, plate load test, field vein shear test. The in situ test, they have an advantage of testing the soils in their natural undisturbed condition. But whereas in the laboratory, we are going to test only small samples obtained from the boreholes through samplers. But whereas here, we test the soil in their natural condition. These penetrometer tests, that is this SCPT, DCPT, SPT, etc., they are carried out. They generally give a measure of the resistance of the soil strata to penetration by penetrometer, and the first one has to be carried out using a borehole, that is the SPT. The rest, that is DCPT, CPT, they can be carried out even without a borehole. The last method, that is the geophysical method. Most common geophysical methods are seismic refraction method and electrical resistivity method. Seismic refraction method is based on the fact that seismic waves have different velocities in different types of soil or rock. And in the electrical resistivity method, it is based on the measurement and recording of changes in the mean resistivity or apparent specific resistance of various soils. Thank you.